Welcome to the C-Suite Mentor, the place where you will learn the tools, strategies, and mindset to scale your business sustainably and build a lasting legacy. I'm your host, Theresa Cantley. As a fellow CEO, I understand what it takes to scale a business to 7 and multiple 8 figures. It's not necessarily what you might think. It requires a complete shift in how you think, strategize, and execute key actions in your business. My mission is to help CEOs step back into the driver's seat of their business by optimizing their operations, empowering their team, and staying in total alignment with their big vision. So, are you ready to exchange everything that hasn't worked for strategies that will? You're in the right place, so let's go. One question that you can ask yourself as a leader, and this is something that I heard. I was listening to a podcast, and it was a podcast via YouTube, and this concept that I heard of, and it is something that I have practiced ever since I was a young leader, like back in my corporate days. I always believed in handling things the way that I wanted to handle them. And some people who were leaders in organizations that I was in always wanted to react to what people were saying. They always wanted to really push their power and authority and reprimand people when something was done incorrectly. And I always challenged that norm. And I challenged that norm and I wanted to handle things myself the way that I wanted to handle them as a leader. And it had to do with this one question that when I was listening to this talk, I was like, oh my gosh, that's it. That's it. And to this day, it is something that I practice. And I do it my own way as a leader. And that question is, what is it like to be on the other side of me? What is it like to be on the other side of me? So in those times in corporate, when I had to handle a really difficult employee or a challenging situation, I always thought about what I was going to say and how I was going to handle it, but also how it was going to land on the other person. Now, I know you can't anticipate what someone's going to feel or how they're going to react or whatever, any of that stuff. I know that that's not possible. But if we ask ourselves, and we do this every day, it helps us to show up as a better person and a better leader. What is it like to be on the other side of me? So if we ask ourselves that and we really think about it, it will help us to be present and show up as a better version of who we are as a person, as a leader. And this is why I believe so heavily that personal development and business, like you have to, as a leader, you have to practice, you have to have a routine to improve who you are every day. Because if you're becoming a better person, you can become a better leader, right? So yesterday I was helping a leader who I coach on a regular basis to handle a very challenging situation with an employee that he has. And the question that I asked him was, what is it like for these employees to be on the other side? Like, what is it like for them? How are you showing up as a leader in this business every day? Are you coming in very reactive? Are you coming in proactive? Are you handling situations by listening and by being an empathetic leader and listening to an employee's concerns, to hear what they have to say and not just to respond? Like, how are you showing up every day? And in this challenging conversation that we're about to have, and how we're going to handle the situation. How are you showing up handling this situation? Are you being reactive or are you going to be proactive in this situation? So if we give ourselves time to really ponder and think about that question, as a leader in our organization, because there's lots of stuff that we have to navigate right now. There's lots of challenges, lots of obstacles, lots of things that are happening in the world. And we're not going to know the answer to all of it. And you know what? We're not perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. But if we give ourselves a moment, give ourselves a beat to think about that question, what is it like to be on the other side of me? And really think about this. And I don't think it's something that leaders think about enough. I think that they just perceive that they go in there, that they're okay, I'm a leader, I'm a manager of a business now, and I need to be the be all end all, have all the answers, do all the things. And they don't really think about, how am I showing up as a leader? And the main reason why I do what I do in my business is because I have been exposed to a lot of things that aren't so great in leadership in my previous days working for various businesses and various industries. And my goal is to really help people to build from the inside out. And that starts with number one, how are you showing up as a leader? How are you showing up? How are you what does your day-to-day look like, your day-to-day interactions with your team? So if we ask ourselves that question, what is it like to be on the other side of me? We're going to get some valuable insight as to how we can be a better leader. So I'm going to give you three things to think about. Number one, if you ask yourself, what is it like to be on the other side of me? How does how does my team or how am I showing up to my team every single day? Number 1, am I an engaged listener? I can't tell you how many conversations I've been in with people where they're just I don't even think they hear me. You get the thousand-mile stare, and you're talking, and you're having a conversation with them, and they are focused either they're focused on simply just responding to you, or they're focused on something else. They're checking their Apple Watch, they're checking their phone. Drives me bananas, one of my biggest pet peeves. So ask yourself, are you an engaged listener? Are you listening when you're trying to navigate a challenge with an employee, as I was doing yesterday, helping to navigate a challenge with an employee and listening, giving feedback, but then shutting up and listening and hearing what that employee has to say? Do they understand what's going on? Do they understand the situation that you're talking about? Do they understand where they had some shortcomings in it? But also, do you understand that when you're receiving the feedback from them, do you understand where maybe your blind spots are? And you recognize them. And when we're an engaged listener and we're actively engaged in the conversation, we're going to get valuable insights as to how we can be a better leader, how we can show up differently for our team so that they can be more productive, so that morale goes up, so that they want to be more engaged. They want to ask more questions. They want to give feedback. They want to give suggestions on how you can do things better. So when you're an engaged listener, not only are you going to listen and hear and be present for the conversation, but you're also going to get valuable insight as to how you can do things better. So that's number one. Number two, avoid toxic optimism. And I've seen this in leaders where they constantly just want to, we just have to be positive for the team. We just have to be optimistic. We can't share anything negative that's happening. And we want to avoid that. We want to avoid that because what happens is when we are transparent with the challenges or the struggles that a business may have to a certain degree, but when we're able to say, "Hey, here's where we're running into problems." I helped to lead a restaurant, and we have restaurants were hard hit last year. If you're a restaurant owner and you're listening to this, I feel you, I hear you. Restaurants were hard hit. And a lot of restaurant owners wanted to just go into reactivity mode and just think about current circumstance. That's it, survival mode. And what we need to do is play the long game. And part of playing the long game is understanding that there are challenges. And going back, one of the things that we did was we went back to the team and said, here's where we have gaps. Here's where we're falling short. And be honest with them. be honest and transparent. Here's where things are breaking down because you want them to co-create the solution with you. So if you're constantly, things are great, everybody's great. Yes, we're going to do this. Yes, we're a team. Yes, there is a part and there is a time and a place that we want to do that. Absolutely. But when we also share in that, here's where we're falling short. Here's where we have gaps. Here's where we need to do things to fix some of these problems. Here's where our food needs to be fixed, or here's where our blueprint in the kitchen, or the footprint, I should say, blueprint. We have too many steps. We have too much complication. It's taking us too much time to make something. So here's our problem. How can we fix it? So avoiding that toxic optimism and sharing like, yeah, here's where things are going well. Here's what we're doing well. But here's where we have challenges. Let's put let's put our ideas together so that we can come up with what we need to do better, what we need to fix. And when we do that, everybody rises, everybody aligns. And when we make our team part of the solution, who knows what kind of ideas you're going to come up with? That's where I believe in diverse thinking. Like really like coming up with, and when you have, especially if you have people who have diverse backgrounds, who came from a corporate restaurant, or who came from a corporate, environment, and now they're in an entrepreneurial environment. They're in a smaller business and things are different. They can bring some of that insight in. So having people be part of solving these challenges. The third one is, and this goes along with everything else I just said, is embracing intellectual humility. What does that mean? It means that you're okay admitting that maybe you made a wrong decision. It's okay, like you're okay admitting that you might not have all the answers. You've achieved a certain level of success. As a business coach, I don't always have all the answers, but I believe in my ability to figure things out, that if I don't have an answer to something, I know I can figure it out. And I know that I also believe in my ability to bring people together, to connect people together, to build a bridge so that we can come up with the answers to something. Having intellectual humility, which I think is a key, and I can speak on this extensively, but I think it's one of the key elements that you need because you want to be more concerned with learning. And I don't mean just learning a new skill, I mean learning something about your team. If you have a business, no matter what that business is, you're always in the business of people, always, hands down. So when we have intellectual humility, we could admit that we might have made a wrong decision, or we could admit that we might have reacted poorly, but we're able to admit that. And then we're able to come back and say, "Hey, I don't have all the answers to this, but collectively, we're going to figure it out. We're going to figure it out together because I believe in my ability to figure it out. I believe in your ability to figure it out." So, key question to ask, to consider, to think about in this time when we have so much uncertainty in this world and when things are just rapidly changing, is how are we showing up for those changes? How are we showing up for those challenges? And then what can we do differently? Ask yourself, and I tell this to the teams that I lead, to my own team, to teams that I coach. What is it like to be on the other side of you? How are people responding to you? How are you showing up in your business? I think if you sit with that for a little bit, you're going to find some really, really good insight, some powerful insight. So, hope this helped you. I hope you have a great rest of your week. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you soon. Hey there. Thank you so much for listening. If you found value on this show, please follow the podcast so you never, ever miss an episode. And I would love, love, love if you would leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify for me. Even better, share the show with a fellow business owner ready to step fully into their CEO leadership role. Because right now, more than ever, the world really needs next level leaders. And by the way, did you know you can text me all your questions and get real-time feedback? You absolutely can. Just text the word CEO to me at 610-215-2999. 2838 to get connected. One last goodie for you before I go. If you're ready to scale your business and have a co-creator working right by your side, my C-Suite Mentor Program may be perfect for you and your possible new second in command. Just visit thecsuitementor.com to get started.